going to take from what Naomi said in our last panel with the youngsters and talk about the fight. Because Project Youth Energy is about the fight. But it's not the fist fights that Kirby and I used to get into on the soccer field. It's more elegant and nuanced than that, right? It's a battle of energies, right? There's the law of conservation of energy. The energy in Canada is constant. The energy in the world is constant. But the inertia has pushed in an unfavorable direction when the schools closed. So it's a battle of inertias. And to right the ship is a fight. It's a countering of energy. So the two, Robert Frost wrote, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And we can either subordinate, yield to that one inertia, which is low energy. So that's the state of the world. I guess we're going to have a low energy world, which is conducive to high misery. Or we're going to put up the fight that Naomi spoke about, the fight that Canute spoke about, that Jamaica was able to muster, that parts of Arkansas were able to muster, that Argentina was able to muster. Are we fighters? So Project Youth Energy is a first dart in the fight. We hope to really start to right the ship, inject energy, motivation into what was once one of the most admired societies in the world, humbly speaking. The second point I want to speak to what Keaton and some of our speakers were speaking about, but again, referencing Canute, yard to yard. The Institute for 21st Century Questions was born in 2014. We do high policy, we fix issues, we reframe them, we bring people together. This is our first go at the yard to yard because the problem is so important to the society, and to me it's so personal. You know, I was offended by what happened to the young people. I was personally offended because by juxtaposition with my own childhood in Canada, it was unacceptable. It was unacceptably stupid. It was a stupid mistake of policy, and when we identified that, I said, well, the natural extension of the logic is to go on the ground and fix it. But if government machineries at scale are not fixing it, well, we'll do the fix while they get ready. Hopefully we'll drag them to success as well. We could do it across many countries, and some of the countries are ahead of us. We've already done the thinking. We're way ahead in the thinking of other countries. Now the ground game. So it is yard to yard, it is community to community, it is mall to mall, and I assure you we've already started that. And it is at the granular level. Actually, I'm against doing too many Zoom or team calls on this. It is at the personal level. Because during the pandemic, we forgot about the person. We forgot that a school exists. A school is a tangled web of people, a community. And it was turned off with a Twitter feed and turned on with the same Twitter feed. So the exit cost from the human condition to the disintegration energy was non-existent. As Keaton said in the documentary, click of a button and I'm out. No exit costs. And now all this energy required to reconstitute a system. Okay? Reconstitute the human condition. There are beautiful lives at stake. I don't accept the idea of a COVID generation, COVID batch, as Shanta was saying. This is stuff that we tell ourselves to excuse or consolidate a low energy post-pandemic equilibrium, right? But that low energy will bleed into all areas of society, and it will be miserable. Contrary-wise, if we inject the energy, we can bring a lot of light into tomorrow for the young people and for the rest of the society. They are the future. We're preparing them. So that's Project Youth Energy. I can think of no better person in actually all of Canada then one of our founding commission members, Professor Fred Lazar from the Schulich School of Business. He's one of our most versatile, both policy and human thinkers in the country. He's associate professor at the Schulich School of Business, York University. He's one of the major universities in the north of Toronto. He's been in the classroom for decades, has taught many top people from across the country and around the world. And most importantly, he's psychologically there right away. He's extremely human, has mentored thousands of young people to success and to bright things. So I want to bring Fred to the fore to moderate a discussion. He'll have some opening remarks, and then we'll just have a discussion. The discussion turns around Fred. We'll welcome Fred. Here we go. Colleagues, the discussion is, I'll ask a few questions. Fred will make a few opening remarks, then we'll open it up. I want us to think about how to make this happen on the ground. All ideas are welcome, and then how to scale it to the requisite quantum. Because as I think we've made plain, it is a massive, massive issue on the human scale, not just statistics, not just on the data, on the human scale, right? And every life counts, but in the machinery of the thing, we need to figure out where are the young people, how do we bring them here? Mentors, I think that's the easy part, but what's the description, right? How do we train the young people? Soft skills, hard skills, basic skills, things that they were missing in the schools. They might be out of school, they might be too old, but they're missing some elementary things. We can't just pretend that's not the case. And finally, how do we get them to where they ought to be in education and or work? Okay, that's the basic choreography we're working with, and the stakes are big, and we're very late into the game. So thank you, and we're going to start with Fred.
Irvin has emphasized the importance of energy, and what better way than to have some old guy whose hearing is fading, eyesight is fading, and memory is fading to bring energy to this forum. Anyhow, let me start with three preliminary remarks before I get into my sort of prepared remarks. The first is I'd like to applaud everyone who's participated in the three panels yesterday. The morning panel, I have learned a lot from them. They've been all very informative, very insightful. They were just really brilliant. Second, I want to point out that it should not be never close the schools again. It should be never repeat the stupidity of policymaking as we had in COVID. I've never seen a situation where the government reacted out of fear, hysteria, and only relied on expertise from one area and not even a wide range of people in that area. If they had brought in other experts, there would never have been lockdowns, the schools would have never been shut down. It was policy driven by ignorance. Nobody ever knew the number of cases. Nobody ever knew the number of deaths actually resulting from COVID. Nobody ever knew the mortality risks. And yet we had policies formulated. We should never allow this to happen again. And then finally, there's the reality. I had asked yesterday, do we need more levels of government, fewer levels of government? Well, the level of government that's going to implement anything is different than the level of government that finances. And what we've learned is governments don't lead. They follow. And they don't always follow well. But I get back to these, to this point a little later on. Now, there are three problems that I see it. The first is finding the third bucket kids. That's quite important. But there's there are three other problems that have been around forever. The second is enticing them to return. What's in it for them? The third is encouraging them to stay. And the fourth is helping them prepare for their future. I don't have anything to say in the first. I will sort of focus my comments on the latter three, which are related. And I want to point out, I don't have the answers. No one has the answers. This is going to be trial and error. I've always been a firm believer when the solutions aren't obvious, let's try multiple paths. Some are going to work out, we're going to figure that out. Others are going to be more productive. And we're going to have to experiment. So with regards to, and I apologize, having to read notes in the past, my memory was much better. The young people that you're trying to attract are going to ask the following questions, and they should ask the following questions. Why should I go back? What's in it for me? Remember, I'm trained as an economist. An economist, the answer is quite simple. Money. Okay? Why should I do it? Well, one solution, and we heard sort of what happened in Hungary, is pay the students, pay their families. That's a start. Maybe we should have a program, not just in Canada, but elsewhere, where we give low-income families bonuses for their children attending school. That doesn't solve the problem, but it might keep them in school. It doesn't deal with the latter two problems that I highlighted. Obviously, there are many other solutions. And what we have to do is probe and look for them. But let me digress just briefly. Role models. And I can only speak about Canada and the US. In the ghettos, the inner cities, the racialized, marginalized communities, we come up with new terms, but for the same communities, who are the role models? They're basically gang leaders or athletic superstars. Well, what we need to look at is how to create new role models. How do we encourage people to become role models, to look up to other individuals? Where else do young people look for role models? Social media, Instagram, TikTok, other social media in other parts of the world. They look for the influencers. So how do we try to use the social media, the technology, to help these young people and to develop new role models? Okay, so how does education come into this? And let me suggest 3 ways. And this may sort of set the stage for discussion, although we've had excellent discussions to date and many excellent ideas. Okay, so the first, the current system of education, whether it's elementary school, secondary school, and obviously it's sort of post-secondary, is really not in the 21st century. Where do the young people spend their time? Social media. This is where they communicate with others. This is where they get their ideas. They're all used to short-form videos. I found teaching, when I first started eons ago, I could sort of talk 30, 40 minutes straight. The students, by and large, would pay attention, depending on whether I was entertaining or not. Then the MTV came along with their videos, and the attention span dropped to 4 or 5 minutes. So I had to change the way I lectured. What's the attention span now? Maybe 45 seconds to 2 minutes. We haven't changed. So where do you start with education? Bring it into the 21st century, where you start using the technology, you start using the short-form videos, use the YouTube model, have the young people help develop the class lessons, have them apply math and science to interesting problems, have them create these videos which will show the importance of language, social studies, even math. That's the start. Following on point 1, another area, creative interest. Let's discover the creative interest of the third bucket children, and then eventually to others. Creative interest in music, design, clothing, food, arts, architecture, engineering, education, etc. Everyone has a different interest. Let's discover what they are and then try to create education programs that cater to these interests. And in the process, teach them. Don't, here you've got to take these courses, you're forced to take this, you're forced to take this, and most students don't understand why. Many students don't have an interest in certain fields. You know, how did I end up in economics? I hated English. I had to take it in high school, so what did I do? I looked at the calendar of the U of T and said, what field doesn't require English at all? Commerce and finance, perfect. That's how I chose my field. And the irony of it is I've had to write and speak all these years. So it's as if my English teacher in high school said, you think you're going to escape from this? You'll see. But everybody's like that. We all have some favorite courses. We all had courses we disliked, but none of them are really catered to our interest. So let's start structuring more individualized programs that cater to the interest. Promote the creativity. If they're athletic interest, let's assist them there. And let's move away from the model that there's school and then there's after-school programs. No, the after-school program should be throughout the whole day, throughout the whole year. And then the final point, following on point 2, and Project Youth Energy is an outstanding example, but I'll highlight another example, and there's overlap. An example that was created by a good friend of mine, went down to sort of California and Silicon Valley, and what did he do? And it involves using sort of partnering with universities, in particular the science departments, engineering schools, medical schools, business schools, law schools, fine arts departments, bringing in corporate sponsors, technology, finance, entertainment, etc. And what he had done is he also raised money. So the initial project was he would have, I think he brought in a cohort of about 10 or 12 students from low-income backgrounds, provided them all with sort of seed capital of $30,000, brought in mentors from technology, Facebook, Google, etc., who are all located in the same area, came in and worked with these young people after school, on weekends, helped them develop business plans. I think Naomi mentioned there's a lot of creative talent out there. They're just not given the opportunity. And what was interesting, in the first cohort, 6 of the individuals created companies. Within the first 6 months, they were making more money than their families were making. The next version of it was, again, working with students from low-income backgrounds, after school, feeding them, mentoring them, helping them with school, helping them create ideas, providing them with a room for athletics, for creativity. And again, it was a cohort of 10, all from low-income individuals, the wrong side of the tracks in Palo Alto. There are poor people in Silicon Valley. And of those 10, all of them were accepted to universities. 8 of them were accepted to Ivy League schools. It just reinforces the importance of mentorship and reaching out. And in reaching out, using largely the private sector. So this gets me back to what levels of government. Don't count on government to take the lead. The beauty of Project Youth Energy is that it's a private initiative. Go get the private sector, financial sector, the technology sector, get the mentors, work with these young people, help them become entrepreneurs, show them the purpose of education, cater to their interest. You lead, governments will eventually follow. If you're expecting governments to be creative, to implement these programs, you're going to wait forever. About 6, 7 years ago, I approached the school board in York Region and in Toronto Region with technology. Think of sort of the whiteboard and Zoom. It was technology that was superior to a combination of the two. It would really have enhanced the level of education. There was no interest at either level. Went to the provincial government, no interest there. You're not going to find innovation and creativity in government. It's got to come from the grassroots. It's got to come from private individuals. And there is no one single solution. So when I talk about the level of government, you've got to lead, they will eventually follow. They will never take the lead. Those are my comments. As I said, I wish I had specific solutions. The reality is, if there were perfect answers, you're all very bright. There are a lot of other bright people. You would have figured it out. All we have are ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We'll just open the floor up for thoughts, comments, and start with Brett. Yes, Brett. We have a mic roving. Leah?
I'll just talk then.
Yeah.
I think one of the themes of Professor Lazar's comments and all of the comments today and yesterday is one of the themes is marketing. Now, the word marketing is a dangerous word to use, I think, because sometimes it's often misunderstood. But if you open up a graduate level textbook in an MBA program and you read the definition of marketing, it's the system of distributing X to the target market. It seems as though one of the things we're talking about is how do we market education to the third bucket kids? And how do we market innovation? How can they be innovators, entrepreneurs, that type of thing, in the future? How can we market these ideas? But I always hesitate to use the word marketing because people think it's manipulation, it's what have you, it's colors in a pop can, and of course it's much more than that. So I'd just like to know your thoughts, Professor Lazar.
Let's go ask. Find these children and ask them, okay, what's important to you? What do you want to do? They all have different interests, like we all do. Some are sort of more interested in certain types of activities, have the characteristics for those, others in other areas, and they're not interested in all the courses they're forced to take in school. There's no reason to compel them to do that. Elementary school, teach them the basics, how to read, how to write, how to use common sense, how to solve problems. At high school level, let's try to work on what's of interest to them. Let's help them develop their creativity. So our start is, let's ask them. You know, with marketing, do the market research, know your customer, and then work with your customer, these young people, to create what will work for them. And then once you have some success, that's why I say try multiple paths. Some won't work, others will. And the multiple paths are going to differ country to country, region to region within a country. Some paths will work in some part of the world, they won't work in another part of the world. Once we find a path that seems to succeed, advertise it.
Try to use my teacher voice. I have 4 comments, but I'm really interested in your reflection. Well, 3 of them are positive, 1 is negative, and I will start with the negative. Because I think that when we are talking about the third bucket kids and the aftermath of the COVID restrictions, we shouldn't forget that this generation is already in quite a bad place. Because in the first world countries and also second world countries, we know that this is more or less the first generation, starting with those who are around 30 now, who are supposed to live a worse life, with regards to quality of life than their parents. And it has never happened since the Second World War, because each generation was richer, had more possibilities. And also, what I also mentioned yesterday, that the climate panic that is being accelerated by general communication is not helpful, because you have to reach out to kids who may not see the point of going to school, but may not see that they have a future, because the earth is about to, if not explode, but to have a mass extinction of humanity. So it is a difficult task, not only because of the COVID closures. But on a much more positive note, I think I have a solution for your problem with marketing, because I would rather think we should talk about advocacy rather than marketing. Yeah, but if you say advocacy, it doesn't have that kind of connotation. And we have a lot to build on. I'm always very happy when people coming from the non-education world, even though you are teaching at university but still not school, say what we are advocating for is to change the schools. But unfortunately, the World Bank will tell you this. People who are coming from companies say this. People coming even from higher education may say this. But there will be very few mathematics teachers, I'm originally a maths teacher, who would say that let's throw out 90% of the compulsory curriculum. So it is a very big step, and of course it goes beyond Project Youth Energy, but we do have to also have this bigger picture. And what you were saying is basically what I was advocating for on the stage, this open schooling approach, where after-school activities come into the school, and the mentors in Youth Energy, I think, have a very important role in trying to convince the professionals in the school. In Europe, we have done a lot in open schooling, and I'm happy to offer some kind of products. In one of the projects that we were implementing, we started to develop an advocacy toolkit for different education stakeholders, and we ended up with an adventure book. So depending on your answers to certain questions, it designs your own way throughout the book, because we realized that if we design something for the different stakeholder groups, we will just keep repeating. So I think that we can help you with that kind of advocacy, where you have to reach out to the formal education establishment. And the last thing, one thought, and we also have a policy background for this, because in 2015, UNESCO published a major education publication called Rethinking Education, where they are advocating for redefining education that is called public good in many policy papers. And well, if you come from a former socialist countries like we do, we know that public good means that it doesn't have an owner. And they are advocating for using the notion of a common good that is the responsibility of each and every member of a community. So university professor or a business owner has just as much responsibility for providing the proper education to kids as the teachers in the school. And the last thing is, I know that Youth Energy is new, but you will have these brilliant young people already in their good paths in life. And I think that what you can think about is how to make them mentors. Because very often, the key to reaching out to these kind of third bucket or lost kids is that they are approached by their peers. That's one part. But another part is that these brilliant young people can also mentor teachers and school leaders for them to understand why the system is not good for them. And we can also help with that, because we have a peer mentoring program where it's focusing on parents, disadvantaged parents. The disadvantaged parents are becoming mentors, and they are also mentoring teachers for them to understand these people coming from very different backgrounds.
Thank you, Esther. Fred, any comments, and then we'll go to Naomi.
Yeah, I'll just make the following comments. First of all, I know when I started teaching, I had no training, so how did I teach? The way I was taught. A lot of teachers go through faculties of education, and how are they taught? Well, the way their professors were taught. I think the only way you're going to reform the education system is you go ask 20-year-olds that just went through it and say, okay, what's wrong? How should you do it so that it appeals to our cohort? We don't rely on them. That raises a problem, though, that you have these teachers in the system that they've been there 1 year, many years, they're going to be reluctant to change. So there's always going to be that problem, but let's ask the young people so we can continually update and revise. Furthermore, with regards to sort of mentorship in these programs, we talk about after-school programs. Well, if you haven't inspired and encouraged the young people during the school hours, you're going to lose them. I remember when I was in high school, you know, I was a good student just by luck, but what kept me motivated? Being part of the basketball team. And there were several occasions where I slept till 3 in the afternoon, showed up for basketball practice. And there are a lot of people that, gee, if there's something after school, I'll skip the rest of the day and come to that event after school. Well, that's why I say it can't be an after-school event. It's got to be throughout the day. Students have got to be motivated. They've got to be excited.
Steve Axworthy.
I did just want to quickly touch on the gang comment again, which is, and it sort of speaks to your point, which is the people that I see most respected by the youth anyway in my school and a few others that I worked on is people like LeBron or Kobe. And frustratingly, as a gym teacher, whenever they take a shot in basketball, they scream out LeBron or Kobe, and I always stop them and I always tell them it's like you don't have a right to say that name until you actually understand what they've gone through and the countless hours that they've spent to actually perfect what they've done. But outside of that, then to the MTV generation, then you also have JC, you have NWA, you have all of those, and they all started off in gangs, and then they came up and monetized their future, which again goes to the point of we do need to figure out a way for every single student to monetize their dream. And it's not that we make money off of their dream, it's we show them how to make money off of the dream, which goes to your point, which is show students what programs are there available. So with Project Youth, then that's something to really focus on in the future. But more than that, it's also giving them other examples of exceptional people, such as like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Oprah, or Bill Nye. Everybody here used to watch Bill Nye all the time when we were growing up. And while he's still there, he's dropped off a bit. So it's not just a gang mentality or a sports mentality. I think a lot of youth also identify that there's something to these people, they don't know what it is. And from an educational standpoint, it is showing them the amount of work that they have put into creating a future for themselves. And so from an educational standpoint, we now need to take that role model and show them the work that goes in and have them understand that it doesn't happen overnight. It might be genetic. Chances are it's actually not. And the chances are it was hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours that were put into perfecting their music, their sports, their understanding of law, their understanding of how to conduct an interview, their understanding of science. And especially when it comes into, let's just say Bill Nye as an example, he has a bachelor's. He doesn't have a doctorate, but what did he do? He put tens of thousands of hours to understanding every concept of which he talks about. And so regardless as to whoever the role model is, it is showing them the work that they put into that to become that role model. And the last point that I'll make is going off of the comment of the attention span going down with youth. I've never really had an issue with attention span in my classes, but I understand where you're going with that because YouTube videos are shorter and shorter, and of course we've seen with commercials they've had to reduce the length of time of which they'll run. But two things: if something is interesting to a student, they will never get bored, and they will stay there for an hour and a half if necessary. And they'll be fully engaged the whole time, and that ultimately comes down to the teacher. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that I'm going to teach exactly the way that, and I was shown how to teach in university. I can pretty much completely tell you I do not. And I've been very successful with my students. I think at the end of the day, we need to allow teachers the freedom to teach the way that they need to for the students. And that comes down, again, to pushing the students and finding ways to monetize and identifying their interests. And once you identify the interest, then you will have them hooked for that entire class.
I would love to know the current youth, like even younger than me, my age at all, what their outlook on the education and mainly the education system is. Because I know my personal belief, but I can't even say what's going on outside my little bubble. And I can say personally, after 9 or 10 years through the education system, I have an antagonistic view of it. I had a bad experience, and I don't believe that the system can provide me what I need. And that is a problem for anyone coming in. And I don't know what children these days feel, or if they feel that education is just, I'm supposed to be here for the 6 hours, and they're not teaching me anything important, they're not deeply engaging with it. And I think it's an important question to ask when assessing this whole problem is, what are the children thinking? What do they believe about the system that you're pushing them and forcing them into? It is not a choice for most people, and if it is, why are they not going? What is stopping them? Because they have a belief that this system can't help me, this system won't provide me what I need, this system isn't thinking about me or have me in mind. And I think that's a critical change. That's something that must change. There must be a solid belief that this system is here to help. This system is here to teach you what you want and not to just force you through and to process you through the plant. So I open the floor.
Well, I don't have an answer. Yeah, no, I don't have an answer, and I put it to the audience, but Kyle, I just want to compliment you on the way you phrased the question, because you're asking a question that is opposite for someone in their 30s or 40s. It was so mature. I mean, I'm not easy with compliments. You blew me away in the way you structured it and the thinking, and I said, look at the intelligence there, sincerely. Look at there's deep soul there, right? We're here to provide a little bit of a spark, but don't stop. Okay, don't let anyone box that beautiful intellect in, right? So I don't know whether anyone wants to answer, but I'm reacting to the quality of the question.
Can I just say a few things? You're asking the right questions, Carl. Now, I'm looking around. I'm probably the oldest person in the room. I remember when I was elementary.
The oldest Viking. You're the oldest Viking.
Elementary and sort of high school. What motivated me? Nothing. I have to go to school. I'm going to go to university. Why? Because, well, what else is there to do? Can I point to anybody who inspired me as a teacher in elementary or high school? My basketball coach, I guess. Then, going to university, as I said, was random selection. You're expecting an 18-year-old to make a decision going to university, community college on something. This is what you're going to do for the next 30, 40 years. That's dumb. So our education system doesn't really inspire young people, doesn't really ask the question, what are we doing for these people? What do they want? What do they expect? What can they learn from this that's going to be valuable to them over time, that can help them decide what is it that they might want to do? I know a number of my friends that went to universities, they wanted to go to law, to go into medicine, engineering. Most of them 10 years later regretted those decisions. Sounded like a good idea at the time, but they were stuck. And again, it's what do the young people want? Let's talk to them, let's encourage them. Even when they're in their early 20s, they still will not know. There's no rush, but let's try to sort of motivate them and help them, whether it's high school, whether it's university or community college. That's where the mentorship comes into play. So you asked the right question. What's the answer? I think you know the answer. Can it be implemented? That's problematic.
I have just one follow-up in the middle of that. Do you felt like your teachers cared back then? Do you felt like they were committed to the experience? Because yes, it was, well, this is just what I do, but even deeper than that in the whole system, did they care about the system as well? My experience is it felt like the teachers didn't care either. And I feel like that's a very driving motivator. I couldn't experience the care that they had.
I think they cared. You know, they were concerned about their students. They did want the students to learn. But they weren't really there to guide them. They were there, I'm teaching this, I'm hoping that you learn, that you understand the value of this. But that was the extent of it. And again, teaching university, I'm hoping that what I teach will help them. But I know with my colleagues, it's, okay, this is what I teach. I come in, teach my course, and I disappear. It's much easier in universities. You don't have to deal with parents. You don't have, and once you've got tenure, you don't have to deal with anyone. So it's, you know, as I tell my students, you know, who's the client here? And the students always say, well, we are the students. I said, no, it's me. It's the faculty. The system is geared to make my life easy. And there's probably a lot of that in high schools and elementary schools as well, unfortunately.
Thanks.
We're going to go to Canute, then Ann, I think, had a comment, then back to Steve.
Yeah, Kirby is gonna.
And Kirby,
answer Kyle's question
Kirby,
about
I'm just
the
gonna
younger
quickly,
people.
we'll get Kirby's answer. I just want to, it actually ties in with Kirby. I'll let you in on a quick story, Kyle. And it's on teachers who care and what the point of education is. Sometimes it doesn't seem to have a meaning. This is the only autobiography I'll share. I was in undergrad. I tell this story to my wife quite often. I was a top student, and Kirby will agree I was a top soccer player. Right, Kirby?
Maybe.
And I was at York University in the business school, and I was completely understimulated the first 2 years. Maybe I'll just drop out and start a business. This is terrible. This is like grade, Liz was saying we had grade 13, so it's grade 14 and 15. I just repeated, I'm just, oh my God, does this ever stop? I need something, I'm gonna drop out. I was a top student about to drop out because it was completely meaningless to me. Then I come to third year, it's the final go. And I come on a professor who all of a sudden stimulates me to another level of energy. And I said, oh my God, the way it's taught, short essays, different concepts, sense of humor, the human experience, the caring. Just one professor. And the professor has a name. It's Fred Lazar. Right? And that, as Robert Frost said, has made all the difference. That's that Mrs. Chadwick. And I think in every part of my academic career and professional career, it was just one person who was transformative, kept you in the system, the glue. And Fred's done that for thousands of students, right? Even up back to the Viking age, right? But you'll find it, Kyle, you'll find it. And we hope to help you find it, right? But the point is, what you showed is the intellect, the thinking, way beyond your years. Don't let anyone box you in. Just say, keep the feet moving, keep the feet moving. You'll find that person, and they'll put you up again. And then there'll be duds, there'll be losers, there'll be stupid people who try to box you in, right? Your revenge is success, right? You'll find your Fred Lazar at every stage. I promise you. Just keep going. Same with Naomi, same with Keaton and everyone else. Kirby. And Kirby, by the way, is one of those people, for his students, I know he's high energy, second best footballer I ever knew.
Okay. Kyle, I just want to say to you, as an educator, I see students like you that come my way in the guidance office or in the halls. I see them on teams or disengaged. And they struggle because they're looking for someone to connect with. And some people feel school more than think school. And you seem to feel school, and you want someone who you could connect with. And while I'm in the guidance office, I feel school too. So I look at my job as teachers may refer someone to me or a student may come in, and I'm saying God has sent them to me, right, in some ways. But because I know what I want to offer them. And then someone like you would come to my office, I would talk to you, and then we would dive into all the areas of your life because I know you're there for that moment. Fortunately, my job paces itself that I could have time to give students like you that time. And I want to encourage you to be open like you are now, because you're connecting with a bunch of people right now by what you're saying. And we need to hear this, but also someone's hearing it that's going to have a conversation with you in the hall out there that's going to inspire you a little more. Hopefully what I'm saying is inspiring you a little more, right? And I think you're on your way. But just keep your heart open and keep professing what you're saying in the way Irv was saying, how you articulated what your feelings were, what you're going through, what the school system's lacking. I am inspired by students like you. That's why I talk to them. I don't think teachers know the value in meeting people like you and the depth of knowledge and care that you bring to a school system. And we lose students like you because we don't sit down and listen to them and find time for them. So be proud of yourself. They lost out on you. You didn't lose out on them, my friend. So keep going, all right? You're on the right path.
All right, Canute.
I sat here and almost everyone screamed at me this morning. Keaton, when he spoke about school and the purpose it served. And when there was a closure, he lost the opportunity to search with his friends in finding himself. Naomi spoke about the needs that she had versus education. When Terry spoke, I heard him, he used the acronym CLUE, and everyone, you spoke about marketing, and it took me back home. When the pandemic struck, and teachers weren't equipped for it, our National College for Educational Leadership had a course that was offered. And what was sold to us was Maslow before Bloom's. Before you can start to teach or look at the cognitive, you have to look at the needs. And many universities there, I guess, and colleges are looking at that, the academic part of it. And I think we have to look at the mission here and find a simple way of selling it. It's that principle. It's the Maslow before Bloom approach. Caring. So I guess we have found a way to maybe market it. Right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And you're so mature, I'm blown away by it. Yeah. All right, that's it.
Thanks, Canute. And I think Canute articulated yesterday, and we spoke about it offline as well, is that the stories, Canute, you deal with at the personal level are the exact same that you see here in Canada. The kids are kids, and the phenomenon of the school closed, the system closed were the same consequences, right? And some of the same algorithms to bring them back. It's just an energy question, and Kyle is a great example of the gold sitting there, the person. And you had a comment? Oh, and Fred, sorry.
Can I just throw out an idea? The U.S. had this program, I forget what it was called, where university students would then be paid by the government to go away for a year or two to work in sort of third world countries. So why not sort of have an updated version, Canada, the U.S., European universities, where after third year or maybe after they graduate, they're required to then spend a year or two going to less developed countries and serving as a mentor. That would help the young people. They would then understand sort of issues and problems elsewhere, get them to have a greater appreciation of their own lives, and it would provide the mentors that could help sort of bring back the third bucket kids, really help with the education of younger people in other parts of the world. So I throw that idea out.
Thank you, Fred. Anne, and then I think Steve. And we're going to try to, go serially. We've got a few more comments. We'll try to keep them a little shorter, colleagues. Yeah.
Hi. So I think I mentioned I was a youth outreach worker, and everything we shared was on point in regards to language and all of that, in regards to gangs, and so we've covered all that, because I was going to mention that. What I'm here to do is, again, energy. I'm a person that's very intentional, I'm very actionable. So when I said that every one of us are mentors, I like going into these settings. The challenge is after the setting, we all go and we all kind of lull on things. Okay, so I'm an action-oriented person. So I'm gonna give you an example of what just happened in the last 5 minutes while y'all were talking. And it's something that every one of you can do. You have a phone, you have contacts. Get on your phone and send out a text to your contacts about youth, the Project Youth Energy. Take out your phones, start looking at me, take out your phones and send a message. I'm gonna show you what just happened. And for you young people, I mentioned that you are a mentor. So someone just said that, and I said, you are now a mentor. So when I heard the comment, I turned to you, I said, didn't I just say that to you on a break? Right. Because I'm a youth outreach worker, and so a little background. I came into the city of Toronto when Malvern area was very high teenage pregnancy and HIV, and they needed a turnaround. And I'm action-oriented in turning things around. So when we talk about gangs and all of that, yes, a lot of these drug dealers are not there by choice, honestly. And you said what you said, and they are the mentors in that area, okay? And many of them do not want the next generation following in their steps. So that's how I was able to get a buy-in in that area, and it has completely changed. So this is what I just did. So I just did a text, and I sent it in my Messenger and Instagram. So Elizabeth, you're gonna be getting some calls. And I just said, hi Ram, so I'm gonna give you what I wrote and then you could make it customized to yourself. I said, hi Ram, that's my short name for his real name. Because he's a personal trainer and he has businesses and stuff. So when I heard about sports management, and he is very in the game of that, okay? So I said, hi Ram, touching base on an initiative that I am a part of, helping youth who dropped out of school due to lockdowns and mandates. I am at an educational summit. We talk about live in the moment. Take out your texts and start, people, typing. I am at an educational summit and connecting with a director of a program that's assisting young people who dropped out of school. I want to get them back into school. She's looking for, so these are the actionable steps. She's looking for, 1, anyone who knows youth or youths in bracket that dropped out. 2, entrepreneurs and small business owners who they can connect the young people with to learn the business that the entrepreneur or business is in. 3, they are pairing up the young people within the industry that they are interested in. Let me know if you are able to assist in any of these 3 or know someone who is. The name of director is Elizabeth Galvin, the name of the company, give them all that website, and then I took a picture of your business card, hence why I came over there and touched you on your shoulder. He wrote back and he says, that sounds great, Opa. I live in London, Ontario these days. I would be able to be a good candidate as I have helped at-risk youth for years in Scarborough, where my old stomping ground was, in Malvern, in the Scarborough area. He also says that he is able to use sports and training, because he's a personal trainer, because he's one of the trainers I used with my son when I was getting him into the whole football area at that time. So he says, I use sports and training as well as mentoring to help the youth. I will see if anyone in my contacts in Toronto is interested. Then I said to him, because I'm action oriented, so I got him, but now I gotta help the friends, right? Okay. So I said, they can work with you in London. If you have youths out there that have dropped out, they can work with them and you. You can also be put on their database as a mentor for London. He says, okay, cool. He says, I work with autistic children. I know. I hope you guys are typing. Okay. I work with autistic children as well as high school athletes here. However, I am interested in helping these youths. Thanks, Oprah, I will check it out. So I took a picture, I told him to let me know if it came out clear, and then I said this. When you make connections with your contacts, please share her contact with them. Please encourage them to reach out quickly and keep the energy of passion going. I am a strong believer in moving with energy of intentionality and urgency. And he says, I'll contact her ASAP. So, that is just Facebook. I could tell you what just happened in Instagram. You're gonna get a third bucketer sent to you, okay? I copied and pasted that and sent that to my Instagram, and I know the people that are in this conversation. And the same thing I said to Instagram, and the person over there said, I know a parent whose child fits the program. I'm gonna reach out to her. So, and there's some other messages that's coming in. Struggling, yes. Right, so the point is, you are an influencer. You have contacts, people. Talk about this event, how it meant to you. Stay in the moment of how you feel right now. When people say I speak from the heart, that's because it's passion. I stay within that energy. I've been to so many summits and so many, God knows how much. Here, America, and what always happens, we have a good time, we go home, and then that's it. Stay in the moment, take out your phones, at lunch, at break, send to 5 people in your contacts, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Copy that. Do you know someone who knows someone? Start putting the energy out here, because yes, Irvin, we are about energy, but inertia, when you said those words, I was just like, you're talking my language. We have to move with the energy that was in this room, and it has to get outside of the room. So go on your phones, send a message, send it to 5 people in each of your platforms, and let the ripple effect start.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Let me just say, I'm going to amplify that in closing remarks, but of course, the whole point of the summit is not to be at the faculty club. It is to inject energy into all of you in Ontario first, nationally, internationally, and then feedback energy. We need to find these young people. It should be easy. We don't have the culture of yard to yard that Canute talks about. We need the granular. We have the social media game. They're out there in huge, to use Shanta's language, in huge batches. They're all over the place, right? And we want to find them, we want to work with them. So thank you for starting that. That's exactly the algorithm we need coming out. Steve?
I'll be really quick. I wanted to respond to what Kyle was saying and what you were asking about. So the first thing is that there are very few teachers who don't care, but we are legitimately overwhelmed. There is talk about taking away a lot of our prep time. That prep time for us is absolutely essential. So we're working for 8 hours a day for our students, and then we have to prep for tomorrow. And so usually our days are about 10 hours at this point. And for a lot of teachers, that can be really overwhelming. For those who teaching comes naturally, it's a breeze. It's difficult, but it's a breeze and we can get through it. But for a lot, it's really difficult. And so that sort of takes me into my next point, which is this disgusting saying, which prevented me from getting into education for a very long time, which is those who can do and those who can't teach. And for anybody who's ever been a teacher, we know that this is one of the hardest possible professions you can be a part of. But for the general citizen, for the normal citizen, they think that teachers are a joke. And so there's not as much respect for the education system as there used to be. And that's something that we really need to fix. The third point is, and largely because of that, there are teachers who don't care. Students. I have a lot of students who don't like me very much, but they know that I care about them. I just push them really hard. So whenever they walk in my classroom, I'm like, oh God, okay, what are we going to do? But they know that I'll go to hell and high water for them. The next point is that if you are legitimately angry with the system, which it sounds as though you are, then get involved. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can either get involved politically, which allows you to change the system from the top down, or as was recommended yesterday, you can always flip the system so that we're thinking about the kids first and then working our way back up to the political level. But that is one of the best things, and we don't have enough youth involved in politics. And that's, again, a failure of the education system. And you can change that if you decide to. The next thing that you can do is to go into the divisional level. And from the divisional level, you could revolutionize a division if you wanted to, and get a group of your peers and all put together the same goal. And then you can change things from the divisional level, which affects politics and also affects education. So schools are organized by divisions. Sorry? Oh, regions, sorry. Yes, yeah. So basically the board, or however it's structured here, that's just underneath of politics that basically sends the rules down to the schools and eventually the teachers. Or you could become a teacher. So in one of those three levels, you can get involved and you can change the system. And the reason why you become a teacher is to change lives. The reason why you get involved with what I know as the division, but here it's called something else, is to change the system for the teachers, to represent them. The reason you get involved in politics is so that you can overhaul the whole system. Just don't change it every single 4 years, as what was mentioned yesterday. A good teacher, the reason why we're there is to inspire you. The reason why we're there is to save a life, because there are lives that we save. There are lives that are going the wrong way and we kick back onto track. We're there because we want to guide you into success. And ultimately that is what we're trying to do, is to get you to succeed in life. And again, if we failed you, then we are all horribly sorry for that. And the last thing is that you asked us what the purpose of education is. The original intent of education was to make a good worker. That was the original intent because everybody was out on the farm. There were a few people that were in the city, but then everything flipped. So then it became, well, we need to make good citizens. So we need to make good workers and good citizens. And then we extended it further, but we still haven't reached this one pivotal moment, which is what university and college is for, which is to get you to start thinking for yourself and make you a thoughtful person. That doesn't mean you need to believe what I believe. There are a whole bunch of my students who don't believe anything that I believe, and that's perfectly fine. But I have them thinking about facts, and they make their own decision for themselves. And we need to start bringing that into education, and then that's where the final part is, which is to ensure that you find success in your life, and that's what the point of education is.
I think we have one more question. Fred, did you want to respond to that? We have one more from Anne, and then...
I think those were some great discussions, and I'm going to go back to the so-called advertising point, in that I think from all the contacts, from all the knowledge, from all the experience, I think we know what went wrong, we know what needs to change, and we know how it needs to change, if you like. And I guess that's the future work of the Commission. But I do think, in response to the issue about whether, it's a political issue or whether it's a local issue, it's both. And I think the task in hand is what might be called advertising, I call making the case, making the political case. Because I think there is a global case to be made. It isn't yet something that most people, unless they had a child in that particular time or were a child in that time, would say was a top issue of our time, but actually it is. All economists should be worried about what's going to happen, and every educationalist should be too. So I think that there's a job to be done about making the global case, if you like. And at the heart of that global case, I'd also just go back to the fact that, children have a right to education. And that doesn't just mean the children who make it easy for everyone on how that education is delivered. And if we embrace that child's right to an education, then actually we have to look more creatively at how it's delivered. And more determinedly.
Well said. Anne? Fred? Let me just add to Anne's comments, and Anne has been advocating for child rights, just like Shanta and Fiona, for much longer than I've been in the game. But let me add, because I've done some thinking and writing about this, and there's some active work being done on it in some governments, including in Canada, that even more fundamental than the right of the child to education is the duty to educate. Because the child is a child. The child loses the right to education is infringed, it's infringed by an adult. And it's not for the child to litigate his or her right to education against adult systems that are prohibitively difficult. So it's for us as adults to realize we must deploy and dispatch the duty. It's a primary duty. We care for the children, we educate them, right? In support of that right. But if we lose that logic, then we get to the current problem, which is it's clear that the right to education has been breached globally. Okay, but primary to that is the fact that the adult generation has failed to deploy its duty to educate. Fiona.
Thank you. I only wanted to mention or comment that I don't understand this very much, the teacher thing in Canada and everything, but there's a place for teachers and they should be appreciated. And I don't want us to get in a place where teachers just get hit. There's a place for them. They can do better, of course, but they should be appreciated. And also, I want to go back to the mentorship. I really enjoyed that part of mentoring, because coming from a country like Uganda where there aren't too many resources, there's limited resources, It makes you become creative about how to deliver services, even though you are not so invested in government, because usually our governments fail in many ways. But I wanted to mention, as I told you yesterday, that we run this organization. We don't have that much resource, but we become creative and we do mentorship. And when I heard them talk about mentorship, I was quite impressed, because how do we mentor? Mentorship is almost free. These guys come together and help. Usually mentors don't come in to ask for money or things like that. They come in to help kids, and they come in with a great attitude, and they also come in with grace. And so if there are people that are willing to mentor, like how he was appreciating his mentor, that takes the other negativity out of it, and it doesn't invest you too much in the teacher, whatever. It keeps you at the level of mentoring. And when we keep at the level of mentoring, it's positive energy. And with that positive energy, you can achieve a lot. Our organization has thrived on that. We have thrived on people in business, in medical field, without a cost. And so I just wanted to put that out there. We also, how we do it for free because we partner with schools. I don't know the bureaucracy in the schools here, but for us, we partner with schools, willing schools. And usually our organization goes to those low-income areas, so because those are the kids that really, really need this. Well, I don't want to use the word ghetto or whatever, but you know what I mean by that. So we go into such areas, and we make inroads. We ask them, we talk to them, we put a friendly face on this thing. And the positive energy is what we thrive on. So by partnering with schools, the teachers understand our role, the parents appreciate it, the kids gain. So everybody gets something out of this. And also we partner with organizations. The gentleman that spoke about marketing, we get with business people, and we let them come in and interest the kids that are interested in education. We have people who are interested in going into medicine. We look at people who are into medicine and we ask them, would you give us an hour? Would you give? And then we work out a schedule and we say, okay, this time, these people are going to come in. These are going to come in. Because our Ugandan system, there are 3 terms in a year. So we know that maybe we shall look for medical volunteers that will come and speak to the kids that are interested in this. And we make it a point that we involve the parents at some point so they know what's going into their kids. The other partner is the alumni. Our organization realized that we can't always make people come volunteer for us for free. They don't have that time. We use the alumni. Like I told you, I founded Project Princess Initiative in 2009. So we have had great students come through our hands, and we also encourage them to come because they benefited from this thing, so they come back. And when they come back, they are more effective than we are. So that kind of thing, it's so positive. Once that branch of the politics gets in, it messes up this situation. So for me, I feel like the politics has its place, the teachers have their place, the mentorship and motivation have their place. And if we do that with grace, we'll be able to achieve a lot for the institute, this work. Lastly, what the professor talked about, connectivity, is very, very important. Like I said, we thrive on that, and we would like, I wish I could make those connections because they're important. they are a different thing. Like for African girls or African kids, to get a professor or a business person or a teacher, different from another place, that's also another part. I used to read when I was a little girl, I used to read about New York, wherever. I hadn't been there, I'd never been to London, but my thoughts took me there. So when these kids see a different person, they take them to that place which they desire. And I really would ask that we should think about such things. They're not very costly, they're very cost effective, but they are very, very impactful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. Fred.
Yeah, just final set of comments to sort of follow off on what Irvin said, what Steve said, and back to what Kyle said. So Irvin said, the right or duty to education. Steve set out, what was the purpose of education? Kyle asked, what is the purpose? I think what's missing here really is, what really is the role of education? And I'll throw out some suggestions to help people be able to communicate, to expose them to different ideas, different ways of thinking, to help people be able to think, to sort of identify problems, solve problems, and most importantly, to be tolerant of many different views, to be respectful of different views, different people, different backgrounds. And there are probably other sort of objectives we can figure out for education, but we have to start with that. It's easy to talk, well, let's give a right, let's bring the people back in, but if it's the same system, they're not going to be motivated. And this applies whether it's third bucket children or it's the first or second bucket children. So we really have to rethink this, and it's not going to come from government.
Can we give a big round of applause to Professor Fred Lazar? I just want to say that underlying some of the choreography of having Fred here is also to pay tribute to teachers. Because, like Steve said, in my own philosophy and structure of education, teachers are actually at the forefront of society. And education is at the base of society. Look through history. Any society that's wanted to get ahead of another society, or right its circumstances, or become more prosperous, more stable, has invested in education, improved it, refined it, glorified teachers, supplied and paid them properly, given them proper glory within society, and has motivated the student body and choreographed their childhood accordingly. Any society, contrary-wise, that has wished to regress or collapse has allowed its education system to collapse or ignored it. We care about the economy, we care about infrastructure, we care about culture, but we don't care about education. What? So we don't realize what we did in Canada. We didn't have the very best education system in the world, but we had one of the best and by far the most stable, thereby assuring at least a better tomorrow. When we collapse that, we assure that tomorrow cannot be better, and we don't realize how difficult it will be to resuscitate what took 100 years of reasonably good public policy and a lot of luck to construct. So this commission, our work on Project Youth Energy, our gathering here, is to reconsolidate what was well understood in 2019 for all the issues in the education system, is that it exists, it must exist, and education is absolutely necessary for the young people to do well tomorrow. Having collapsed it across many countries, we must re-energize it and the human condition to reconsolidate and then to go to the next step that's required for success in a more difficult tomorrow. So I want to give the marching orders, as we were given already by OPA and a few other colleagues, and as I began to intimate. First of all, I do not accept that there's a COVID generation of kids, that they're lost kids. Rubbish. We should have started 3 years ago. The Commission's been calling for this for the last 2 years. I still demand it at this late stage. Find them, help us find them, right? We reintegrate them either into education or first employment maximally. Secondly, mentors. Fiona was talking about it. That's the easiest part. It's a zero cost proposition for someone to say, I'm willing and able to help a young person, right? I myself coach all the time, coach soccer. It gives me my connection to the young people. You change lives just through the interaction. Here we will more or less formalize. You're a mentor in the program. We need you. We need to attach different mentors to the young person from different facets of his or her life, according to his or her dreams, capabilities, and plans. The more complicated parts now. What do we do for the young people? We will work on CVs and writing and all this stuff, but there are some more fundamental things and there are some more value-added things. We need help with that. There are some universities, some high schools that can incubate these young people, give them that catch-up, and then there are some value-added that we can have through bespoke arrangements, again, according to the circumstances of the child, destabilized in education. Finally, we want to put the child in first employment where possible, if not education or alongside education. It should be understood by all business owners of some size by the end of this project that there's a massive generation of young people who need that attention, who need their labor demand, right? It should be on the mind of business people. And there will be matches to be made. We will help orchestrate, choreograph some of that. But it is a very large choreography. It's a big problem. We're doing, I think Liz is doing heroic work on a small scale to start. You will help us scale up. We count on you, as was mentioned, to leave here with those ideas. Use your contacts, use all those social media platforms. And in the end, it is a human problem. We'll be dealing with it granularly. I want to thank the terrific young people who were here, Keaton, Kyle, and Naomi. We see what we have at our feet. We have wonderful young people, as has always been the case in Canada and indeed in all other societies. Right? I do not accept that what was done to them was always an accident or stuff happens and things go bump in the night. It was a mistake of public policy, okay? And I'm very direct about things. We're here to fix mistakes. We're not the government. We're doing it on our scale, but we have identified it in a, I think, humbly a pioneering way, and we'll do our best. We'll do our best. The human consequences are very real and significant. I want to thank the Commission members who came from around the world on all continents to really bless the first global in-person summit, consummating our work over the last 3 years. People don't realize many of us have worked online through calls, through massive meetings and conferences over 3 years since early 2021 and sometimes late 2020. So a lot of the personalities are known. We meet each other in person. It is important, and a lot of the problem begins from the lack of in-person and can only be solved in person. Now we see each other, we know we exist, the consequences are granular. I want to thank our terrific team at the Institute for 21st Century Questions and Project Youth Energy. We met Liz Galvin. Liz is going to be one of the real protagonists of this wonderful story, and Project Youth Energy is really her lead. I want to thank, in the back, you'll see a lady who's very tired, named Leah Antonova. Leah has not slept in a few days, and rightly so. She's working. She's really terrific, and she brought such style, and I want to thank my spouse, Irvin Studin, for tolerating me all these years. And I want to thank Leslie McMillan and Anthony, who have been really doing wonderful work online. And Leslie's a great addition to the team and brings great energy and granularity. So thank you, Leslie. And everyone who's come, I hope I'm not missing too many. We're missing lunch, which is served momentarily. Please do not leave until you're fully full. And please talk. I hope you've had a good day and a half, and that you felt, at least from the Canadian side, a little bit of an injection of energy, that we've changed your perspective. There'll be the documentary that goes online very soon. That will be seen around the world, and spread the message. Something very grave happened in March of 2020 and was amplified. It is, as Anne says, the most significant issue in the world. Look at the scale, look at the consequences. It will bleed into every facet of Canadian and international life very soon. But now we will see it. We will understand what we were seeing. And so with that in mind, I bid you a great rest of the weekend. Thank you for coming to Toronto. And projectyouthenergy.ca is the website. Get in touch with Liz, me, Leah, our team. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to Sean, Leora, and all our workers here. And who's that? Yes. Well, I was going to thank the faculty club. We thanked Jill Daly from the National Ballet of Canada, which is one of the great ballet companies in the world. She was with us today. And Sergey is on the violin today. Actually, Leah is so detail-oriented. We invited Sergey at the last minute, and he came, and Leah was ready to say, kick Sergey out of the club because we didn't order a violinist. We surprised her with Sergey, and he did a cracking job. So enjoy Sergey, enjoy the meal, and thank you again to colleagues. Thank you.